almost a shame to interrupt the beauty of this silence with my big mouth, but since that seems to be my constant fault, I might as well continue. Actually, today I was feeling uh, very much like this water here, just really, really peaceful. And to be truthfully honest with you, I didn't really want to disturb that tranquility with a talk today. I wanted to kind of rest in that. But naturally, as you all know, when I am called, I'm bound to show up. So you will forgive me if every now and then I drift back in and out of this conversation with you. It is very hard to concentrate and talk under these kind of conditions. I'm looking forward to next year, since we now know about the existence of this place, to spending a lot of time out here having satsang. But we will continue on our investigation of some of the many topics that arose out of the talks that we've had thus far on the Bardo. And of course, by now, we all understand what death, dying, and living is all about, at least intellectually. And perhaps we find ourselves in a much more um, advantageous position now to really do some serious reflection on how to take advantage of having this opportunity to be a human being, this precious opportunity of being a human being. And what are some of the things that we can do in this Bardo, in this life, in order to make our transitions into the next Bardo stages much more in harmony and in line with our overall objective, which is to attain the state of enlightenment. You have to remember that that is the only worthwhile goal in this life, is the attainment of this enlightenment. Many of the mystics say that in so many lifetimes, when you did have this precious human birth, that the Lord of Death, Yama, was able to cheat you out of it by distracting you and so many activities. And it's somehow miraculously we have managed to again obtain this precious human body. And therefore, in this lifetime, we should keep our eye on death, much like a man who is being pursued by an assassin, so that we do not miss this opportunity to attain that which we have not attained in infinite births prior to this. And when you begin to contemplate that, it opens up a whole dimension of deep thought. And so we will begin to explore some of the deep thought that arises out of this insight into the inevitability of our death, dying. First thing we have to understand is that we all have an opportunity to become a Buddha. We all have the opportunity to become a Jesus, a Muhammad, a Kabir, a Dadu, an Atisha, a Krishna, a Moses. And we have that opportunity by virtue of the fact that we are now sitting in this precious human body. But unless you really are convicted of your potential to become a Buddha, you will not take advantage of the human birth. Now, this has to be deeply understood, because it has been my observation that the vast majority of us do not apply ourselves to a spiritual practice seriously, simply because we lack the conviction in our own potentials to become a Buddha. And when you lack the conviction in your own potential to become a Buddha, you do not therefore have a basis on which to perform your spiritual practice. You don't really apply yourself to your spiritual practices because deep down inside you don't believe you can become enlightened. Somewhere in the deep recesses of your own consciousness lurks this doubt about your potential. And no doubt, when we reflect on our faults, our shortcomings, and our imperfection, this simply fuels the doubt even more. But the first thing that we have to do, we have to establish the basis upon which spiritual practice can indeed take place. And the mystics have been very clear on what the basis of that practice is. And the first component is that you must develop the strong conviction that you have the potential to become a Buddha. All of us have Buddha nature. All of us have Guru nature. All of us have God nature. All of us have Christ nature. And your Buddha nature is as good as any Buddha's Buddha nature. You understand? And there has to be a strong conviction on that. And if it's not there, then you're going to have a lot of difficulty generating the energy to apply to a spiritual practice. The other thing that has to be in place is a deep conviction in the truth of the Dharma, the truth of the teachings. If you do not have a deep conviction in the validity and the accuracy of the teachings, then again, you will not find yourself rooted on a solid enough foundation from which you can seriously begin to apply yourself to a sadhana, to a program of spiritual practice. If the teachings, for instance, on Bardo did not completely stun you, if somehow you have listened to the teachings on the Bardos and you still are walking around thinking that your death is something far, far away and that you got plenty of time, then you have not really taken the teachings to heart. You are not yet truly, in your deepest, most levels, convicted of the fact that you're going to die and that you don't know who. If that has not created a certain urgency in you, then obviously you will not have the energy and the basis from which to really begin to apply yourself to meditation. Now, as we talk about the Bardos, many have, the next morning did not do any meditation. Now, this simply means you did not truly either understand what I was saying or you don't believe what is being said. And as long as this disbelief, this doubt, this lack of conviction in the accuracy and the facticity of the teachings does not exist, there will be no foundation from which you can really generate an authentic spiritual practice. So these are just two of the essential components that must be in place. There must be the firm conviction in your potential to become enlightened. In fact, enlightenment should be your goal in this lifetime. It should become your goal. But if enlightenment is not immediately available to you to pursue as a goal in life, then please consider the following. If you have truly understood that you are going to die at a time that you don't know about yet, and under conditions that you have no idea about, and that you too, like every other living entity, will undergo the transitions of the Bardos, then you already have understood that there's a possibility that you will not get this human birth again. Therefore, you need to reflect on what kind of life it would be if you came back as an animal. What kind of life would that be if you came back in one of the hell realms? And yes, there are realms of hell. And you need to look at the kind of suffering that you will undergo in these lower realms of rebirth. And that suffering, when clearly understood and deeply contemplated, will act as a motivation for you to strive for at least a higher rebirth. If you're not going to go for enlightenment in this birth, I can understand. Because your doubt about your potential to become enlightened in this birth, your doubt about your Buddha nature, your doubt about the existence of God in you is so strong that it does not permit you to even entertain the concept. I understand that. But if you cannot at least pursue enlightenment in this birth, then the least you should do is to try to avoid taking rebirth into a lower realm. Taking rebirth into a lower realm means you don't know how many more billions of lives you will have to go through before again you come to this human birth. Taking birth in the lower realms, in the animal realms, they cannot understand the body. They cannot reflect on life in its meaning, in its purpose. They can do no spirit. These animals cannot do any yoga. They cannot worship God. They are simply locked into a life of kill or be killed. Very brutal. Very brutal. We all are very familiar with the suffering that they go through. We see it every day. And if you fall into that animal realm, then you too will undergo that kind of suffering. You see? What needs to be done, therefore, in order to ensure at least a higher rebirth? And remember, this higher rebirth is not the end of the goal, but at least if you can do something in this lifetime to warrant being born into the human body again at a higher level, when perhaps you'll be in a better position to follow the teachings and follow the path, then there are certain things you have to do in this Bardo. The point I'm trying to make is that your whole future depends on what you do in this Bardo. You can blow it from here, or you can take advantage of all of the merit and the virtues that you have accumulated over an infinite series of prior births. The masters tell us that the first thing we have to do is that we have to go find some way to stop generating so much of this bad karma. Because your karma ultimately will dictate what form you get. And we all create karma through body, speech, and our mind. And so what the mystics have done, they have given us a set of guidelines that we are to follow in terms of disciplining the activities that emerges from our body, our mind, and our speech. And this becomes the moral foundation that protects us from the automatic generation of additional negative karma. You see? If you are reading scriptures, but you still create a negative karma, then reading a mountain of scriptures is not going to be of any value to you. You will still take a lower birth. So the first thing that we have to do then is lay a solid foundation that deals with breaking our tendencies to generate negative karma. And this is commonly called moralityism. When people talk about an ethical and moral foundation in your life, the whole function of practicing morality